Next, a phenomenon of a single gene regulating several phenotypes is called options: multiple allelism, pleiotropy, incomplete dominance and codominance. Let me first define all these things. Multiple allelism, it is nothing but existence or expression of a single gene in number of forms or in more than 2 alternative forms. We know blood group is the best example for multiple alleles. Pleiotropy. Pleiotropy or the pleiotropic genes are the one wherein you can see that a single gene, it controls or it decides more than 2 triads or more than 2 phenotypes. I mean to say 2 characteristic features are governed by a single gene, and that is called pleiotropy. Next, incomplete dominance. As the name itself suggests, here a dominant gene is incompletely dominant on the recessive gene. As a result of this, when a dominant and a recessive gene comes together in a heterozygous condition, the dominant gene will not be able to express itself. Instead of that, they blend and form an intermediate phenotype. Codominance. Codominance is a condition where when 2 dominant genes come together, or in a heterozygous condition when there are 2 dominant genes, both the genes express themselves equally. So here a phenomenon of a single gene regulating several phenotypes or several characters, the answer or the right option is B. Dear students, I think these 2 questions are clear. The next question, X-linked recessive gene is always expressed in male, always expressed in female, never expressed in male and always expressed in males and female. X-linked recessive genes. One feature of recessive gene is recessive genes will get expressed only if they are present in homozygous condition. That is, in the chromosome complement, both the alleles have to be recessive. If one recessive gene is accompanied by a dominant gene, then the dominant gene will suppress the recessive gene and express itself. So the rule is, if a recessive gene has to be expressed, then they have to be present in a set of 2, or the pair should have both recessive genes. Now, another thing which is mentioned in the question is, it is an X-linked recessive gene. That is, it is linked to the X chromosome or it is present on the X chromosome. First option, always expressed in male. Now let us see what are the different chances that can occur when we consider X and Y chromosomes. In case of female, you can see this is the condition XX. Now here the recessive gene can be present only on one X chromosome, or it can be present on both the X chromosomes. If it is present on only one chromosome, then the dominant gene will express and the disorder will not be expressed. In this case, since there is no dominant gene present, both the genes are recessive, here the disorder will be expressed. Now let us see the case in male. In male, it is heterogametic condition, one X and one Y. So if a male has a recessive gene on the X chromosome, then since it does not have another X chromosome, this recessive gene will express itself. There is no dominant gene to suppress it. So seeing these, you can come to the conclusion that always expressed in male. This is the right answer. Always expressed in female is wrong, because at times it may not be expressed because of the presence of dominant gene. Never expressed in male is also wrong because it is expressed in male. Last one, always expressed in males and female is also wrong because at times in females it may not be expressed. So students, I hope you have understood this question. Students, let's see the next question. Which Mendelian cross can produce two genotypes and two phenotypes? Genotype is nothing but the genetic constitution, whereas phenotype is nothing but the external features. The first option, monohybrid cross. Monohybrid cross is a cross wherein we take into account just one trait. For example, height, or it may be the shape of the seed, etc. Let me explain monohybrid cross with an example of height. The two parents selected are tall and dwarf. The tall plant will have two dominant genes, whereas the dwarf plant will have two recessive genes. When they produce the gametes, the tall plant will produce a dominant gene and the dwarf plant will produce a gamete containing a recessive gene. So when a recessive gene and a dominant gene, they fusion of gametes, it results in the formation of a hybrid which will have a dominant gene and a recessive gene. But because of the presence of the dominant gene, the hybrid will be tall. Later when we go for the F2 generation, that is when two hybrids are crossed, it results in the formation of 4 types of plants wherein 3 are tall and only 1 is dwarf. Because of this, it is not the right answer for this question because we are in search of 2 similar genotypes and 2 similar phenotypes. So the first option is not the right one. Let's go to the next one, which is monohybrid test cross. What is the difference between a monohybrid cross and a monohybrid test cross? We call a cross test cross when the hybrid is crossed back with its recessive parent. Let me draw it and explain. This is a hybrid. Of course, it will be a tall plant. It is crossed with its recessive parent. Now, let us put the Punnett square and try to understand. You can see these are the alleles of the tall hybrid plant and these are the alleles of the dwarf recessive parent. When we cross, this is a tall plant, this will be a dwarf plant, again a tall plant and a dwarf plant. Which Mendelian cross can produce 2 genotypes and 2 phenotypes? You can see here, phenotypes are the external features, 2 tall plants, 2 dwarf plants. Genotypes are the gene combination or the genetic constitution. You can see this combination is appearing twice and this combination is also appearing twice. So the right answer over here is option B. Incomplete dominance. Incomplete dominance is actually a kind of inheritance wherein when a dominant and a recessive gene come together, the dominant gene is not capable of suppressing the recessive gene and it blends and produces an intermediate phenotype. D is also not the right answer. Why? Because codominance is nothing but when 2 dominant genes come together, both of them express themselves equally. So the right answer is B. Students, I hope this cross is clear. clear, students? Now let's see the next question. Match the following with respect to its sex determination. Now here there are different types of sex determinations which are given, or the 4 types of sex determinations which are given in column 1, and on the other side you can see they have given different types of organisms as examples of these types. Let me first explain how the sex determination of these types are done, and then I will match it with the examples given over there. So here you can see the most commonest one is XX and XY. Here you can see this is the type of sex determination which we find in human beings as well as in Drosophila also. Here you can see that the females are always homogametic and the males are heterogametic. That is, in female you can see there are 2 similar X chromosomes, and in male you can see there are dissimilar, that is X and Y chromosomes present. The next one is XX and X0 type. This is generally found in case of some insects, for example like in grasshopper. Here you can see this is similar to this type of sex determination, but the difference lies in the heterogametic condition of male. In heterogametic condition of male, Y chromosome is absent, or in other words we can say in male it will have only 1 X chromosome, and in case of females there are 2 X chromosomes. The next two, ZW and ZZ. Now this is almost similar to the last type of sex determination, but to avoid confusion, instead of X we write Z, and instead of Y we write W. But there is one more difference here. In this case the female was homogametic and male was heterogametic, whereas in this case you can see that the female is heterogametic and the male is homogametic. The first column you can see there are 4 different types of sex determination which are mentioned, and on the other side some examples are given. So before matching, let us see the different types of sex determination, how it actually happens. Let me start with the last one, XX XY sex determination. This is found in case of human beings as well as in case of Drosophila. Here you can see a female sex is determined when homogametic condition is prevalent, or when homogametic condition comes it will determine a female sex, whereas if it is a heterogametic condition it is going to produce a male organism. Now option C, XX X0. It is almost similar to option D, but the difference over here is in case of male there is only 1 X chromosome, there is no Y chromosome present. And this kind of sex determination you will find in insects like grasshopper. Now let me explain option A and B. Now the first one, ZW and ZZ type. This is somewhat similar to the last option, but the difference over here is, here the female sex was determined when it was homogametic condition and the male sex was determined when it was a heterogametic condition. Here it is vice versa. When a heterogametic condition comes, it determines a female sex, and when a homogametic condition exists, it determines the male sex. And this kind of sex determination you will find in case of birds like hen. The next one, Z0, ZZ. This is a type of sex determination wherein you can see that in case of female there is 1 Z less, and in case of male there are 2 Z chromosomes present. And this is a type of sex determination that you find in case of some other types of insects like butterfly. So according to this, the right option is option C. Students, I hope it is clear. students, though there are many questions, I have picked few questions and I have tried my level best to make few concepts clear. Be confident, work hard, refer more questions, solve more concepts.